share one that can go.
I think your head's moving.
That's so funny stuff. I know, like, really just running around and you just sat there.
I see people moving.
Okay, everyone, attention. Attention. Okay.
No gavel today.
No gavel today, just me. Make sure you check in to the Hopkins group thing. And would someone like to motion?
Motion to start the meeting.
Second. All in favor of starting the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor? Opposed. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, we're now in session.
Great. Sorry I'm late, and pizza lost my order, so I got to hang out there for a while. So we're gonna do this. Okay, great. So you don't have to do roll call anymore. Just remember to go ahead and scan that QR code if you haven't scanned it yet. That marks your attendance here, even if we don't get you down by name. If anybody has issues with that, please let anyone who's not sitting up here know. What's up?
I don't know my password for campus groups.
It's a JNet.
Yeah, I don't know that either, so I can't. I'm so sorry.
How do you know
It's automatically on my computer, so I don't
Okay.
have
Oh yeah, because you lose your show up right now.
Someone?
Password.
It's nothing.
Elena will check in before. Figure it out for next time.
Alright, look around
It's
you.
okay, please.
Look around you, see who's missing, etc., etc. Just to keep a vague head count. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, that was so funny, Nathan.
Who's missing from SelfOp Council?
Raj.
Oh yeah, he's coming late. We already talked about that. Oh, Anthony's not. Alright, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start off with, are we streaming?
Yeah, we're streaming.
Beautiful. We're gonna start off with executive board and SGA branch report, starting off with the executive president.
Hi guys, thank you all for coming to the retreat for those who could make it. Alright, we're gonna present later on the retreat and we're gonna tell you guys who could not make it, what they have to do to make up for it. But what exec board / I have been doing so far, we've had meetings with Carolyn and Calvin. We're gonna bring up some issues or something later on in closed session. We are gonna have a meeting with student me, Cody, Elena, a bunch of you on the the sophomore class council are gonna have a meeting sometime this week. And yeah, we'll just get more into some of the other things that we have to discuss during closed session.
Beautiful. Next up is me. Pardon, this is dinner today. Starting off, we had a meeting with Calvin and Carolyn. We also had a meeting with Calvin, Carolyn, Allison Avelio, who's, what's her title?
She's the interim student life.
Yeah, Dean of Student Life, replacing Smita temporarily. And then Kevin Schoenberger, who deals with health and wellness and student affairs. So we brought up a whole bunch of points there. We brought up partnering with Flock, which is something that people have mentioned. We brought up a lot of student disability services, including the battery-powered handicap buttons for the doors. We brought up expanding pilot. We brought up working with the GRO. It was a really, really, really productive. An update on what happened to Silver Cloud, because we haven't heard anything. It still exists. It has over 2,000 users. TimelyMD also still exists. So we're going to be working on something to kind of publicize that, because originally they were supposed to disappear after we got back to campus, but since they were so popular and so easy to use, we're keeping them. So more information on that will probably be going out to HSS and anyone else who wants to be involved. As Mahek said, most of what we've been doing is focused on the retreat. So we had goal setting at the retreat. I'll talk about it later. But if anybody has any worries about their excuse, missing the retreat, any content like that, we'll review it. And afterwards, you can talk to me if you still feel like you missed anything. And that will push us off onto the treasurer.
Hello. Hope everyone had a great week so far. I've just been emailing groups and meeting with groups to finalize some more budgets. Hopefully that'll be done soon. Monthly grants should have opened up today. If they haven't, let me know. But you can now fill out monthly grants for your groups. And as always, if you want anything co-sponsored by SGA, do like a funding bill. out to a senator or president or me, and we can work on that.
Elena?
I've been working on updating the website, so I have templates for the committee chairs and past presidents that I'm going to send out tonight. I've also been working on updating the bylaws and fixing all of the formatting there and making notes of everything that we should be doing in art. And I am also working on an application for the CNC so that I can get that going.
An additional update for me, I'm in contact with PRDC, looking for new applicants, so if y'all have any friends and like policy stuff, let me know. I will direct the application to them. We're also going to be sending out an SGA-wide email relatively soon, preferably in the next week. So you guys will get the preemptive thing before we send it out. So just let us know if you want to add anything onto that. That brings us to class. Seniors, go ahead.
Not a ton to add. This week we had our regular council meeting, met with the people who organized the senior class gift, talked about co-sponsorship as well as some potential special like fundraising campaigns, particularly maybe for some of our support staff and hospitality workers. We're also just working on events. We're going to be doing some mass pickups this week. Sent out an email last week. And for people who haven't noticed, this is actually important. Talal resigned, so we are currently looking for a new senator. The application closed yesterday. We'll be reviewing the applications in the coming week, and hopefully we'll have someone to present either, probably not next GBM, but probably the GBM after that.
All right, juniors. The proxy of Anthony, would you like to present? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting last night and we talked about some ideas for the upcoming semester, such as an outdoors movie night and a fundraiser.
Cool. Alrighty. And sophomores?
We have confirmed a class photo for the class of 2024, September 26th, I believe. I'm terrible at numbers, but it is happening. We also have been working with DRO and exec board for the disabilities issues with Lowell Maury, and that is much it.
Alrighty. Freshmen don't exist. They will exist in 2 weeks. That's our most recent vague head count. So get ready to welcome new people. In addition to that, we will be having a tabling event with the freshmen sometime in October. Tabling events basically mean we set up a table and it's like a meet and greet, come talk to your representative type things, and everybody takes shifts. So we'll schedule some times for that, but that's not anything urgent. We're gonna go ahead and move on to committee reports, so academic affairs.
So we had a quick meeting post-retreat. One of the things, like the issues that was brought up was improving disability access. So we're gonna be having a meeting sometime this weekend to meet with somebody who wrote an op-ed about that. We're also gonna be meeting sometime soon, hopefully, with leadership at Hopkins to talk about professors not meeting accommodations, professors having more leniency for people who don't yet have evaluations through SDS, and then just improving accessibility during online lectures in general. We're also going to be trying to improve the transition to in-person classes. Currently some of the issues that we're having is that they're cramped and that they're not properly socially distanced. So we're going to see whether we can fix that, and then also contacting study consulting and improving communication with them so that we can hopefully support students integrating back into in-person classes.
Beautiful. We're gonna move on to civic engagement.
We weren't able to have a meeting because of the retreat, so we're just following up on business from last week.
All right, and we'll have something to send to you guys soon from the retreat, which you will hear about. Finance?
We sent out a when to meet, and I also spoke to Erica about working out a final time to meet, and she just wants us to wait till our full members are on here to start having our official meeting, our new staff members. And we also voted on 2 bills that we'll be discussing later on today.
Sounds great. Health, safety, and sustainability.
Yeah, so we did manage to meet on the bus on the way home from the retreat. We passed an SJRA sustainability initiative, and we're also having Real Food attend the meeting today to talk about what they're up to. And then we also discussed meeting with home recycling, a farmers market initiative, and a conference.
Beautiful. Internal affairs. We didn't do anything.
Yeah, except we still have to fill out the 2-2 part.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, so
Beautiful. Moving on, student orgs.
Not a ton to add. We had our first meeting with our advisor, who happens to be Caleb, on Monday, and we finally nailed down a meeting time. We'll be meeting Wednesdays from 5 to 6.
Beautiful, and remember, once you get a final meeting time for the semester, please send it in an email, CC all of executive board, and make sure you're putting that in your Hopkins groups as events, because otherwise, and in teams, send it in teams too. And last, services or the proxy of Anthony.
Yeah, so student services also met last night. We basically just brainstormed some of the ideas we had, and going on from there, our next meetings will be taking actions on some of the ideas we find realistic to have going on campus. And I think our meeting time is set for Mondays now only.
Beautiful. Caucuses still don't exist. They won't exist until we get the freshmen up in here to fulfill them. Advisor report.
Hey everyone, I have 3 things. First, I really enjoyed time at the retreat over the weekend. I'm relieved it's over, but was happy over the weekend while it was happening. The folks who were there, y'all were fantastic, and it was great to see the interactions. I do want to promote something, I guess, to everyone watching on the internet, for the student orgs at Hopkins, but also to the SGA. The Life Design Lounge is hosting something new this year as a part of Future Fest. They're calling it Student Org Showcase. And it's like a reverse of a career fair. So instead of you as students going to employers and saying like, hey, we're employable, the employers come to you and you market your organization and the skills that you've learned as student leaders in those boards. And we'd love to have more student groups sign up. I feel like SGA is a pretty good qualifying group. They're giving prizes to the top groups that the employers enjoy speaking with. So the organizations get, I don't know if it's 1,000, 502, or if it's 500, 200, and 100. I don't remember, but it's money. So you could potentially do something different with that money that you might not be able to do with SGA funds.
Such
that
as
might be
clothes.
for y'all to look into. And then the last big thing, I know we're on our 3rd week of school, and want to remind y'all that I'm really looking forward to engaging this year. I feel like the connection over the retreat was a really good step-in point for me, engaging with you all, and I'm just really looking forward to what you'll do this year.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to new business. So we're going to start off with a closed session. So just as a reminder, closed sessions are SGA only. You are not allowed to take notes. You guys can all shut your laptops now, put your phones face up on the table or just in your bags, somewhere where you won't touch it. No pictures, no writing in a notebook, nothing like that. Also, if you are not an SGA member, we're going to ask you to step outside. I can come get you once we're finished. Sorry to keep you out. It won't take too long.
Point of order, don't we have to vote on this? Sorry to be that person.
Oh, yeah, no, we do.
Okay.
I'm just getting them out before we vote or do anything. Beautiful. Could I get a motion for a closed session?
Motion for a closed session?
Can I get a second?
Second.
Beautiful. We're now going to vote. All in favor of going into a closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We are now in a closed session. The only, what's up?
Should we close the door?
Yes, we should.
Are we on a live stream?
Quite literally.
We should shut off the live stream. I'm going to shut off the live stream. Mahek and I have our computers up. We're not taking notes. We're just reading our notes that are up here. And I'm just returning the tape. Oh, goodness. Elena, how do I shut this off? I feel like such a boomer. Like, Elena's stealing all of my tech.
Look at us.
And like,
You are.
we are now live. Wait, we're going into new business. The first thing is Real Food Hopkins, presented by Casey Levitt, who has 15 minutes and is starting right now.
Okay. Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Casey. I'm from Real Food. Yeah, I didn't prepare slides, but I'm basically just gonna like spiel at you for 15 minutes about kind of what we're up to this year, what's happening with Hopkins food system, just because it's something really important that we really think that more students should be aware of. So yeah, we're really excited to connect with SGA about like possible collaborations on what we're working on. But yeah, this is going to be kind of a lot, so feel free to point if like things are unclear, if you want me to like, you know, explain things more. But yeah, I'm just going to start with kind of like what Real Food is and where we came from, and then kind of work up to what we're doing now. So basically, I don't know if anyone's heard of the Real Food Challenge, but that's kind of where this all started. The Real Food Challenge, it was this nationwide challenge that this organization posed to universities, challenging them to divert 20% of the budgets for what they spend on food into real food. And the Real Food Challenge defined real food based on 4 like general criteria. And those are local, sustainable, fair, and humane. So local is like kind of obvious. Sustainable is like a lot of standard. Humane refers to like how livestock are treated, and fair is like worker protections. Those are like the 4 categories. There's like, you know, a whole list of standards under each of those. But they set up this whole framework for like how schools can actually like look at all the food they're buying and actually rank like what % of it counts as real food. So the Real Food Challenge was challenging schools to get to 20% real food by 2020. So Real Food Hopkins formed, I think, around 2012. And the whole goal of the student group was to get Hopkins to sign on. So after like, you know, a couple years of activism and campaigning, Ronnie D actually signed on for 35%, which is, I think there's one school that signed on for 40, but other than that, like Hopkins was like, you know, that's the highest real food commitment of like any school in the nation, which is, yeah, super cool. That was like a huge win. And kind of since then, it was this like really wonderful collaborative effort between students in the Real Food group, administrators, and the procurement staff at Bon Appetit to actually work together to figure out where we could source more food locally. There was like a student intern position called the Real Food Calculator. Those students were actually in charge of like going through the invoices and seeing like what counts as real food, what doesn't. So yeah, that was like, that's kind of like where real food came from and kind of what's been happening up until 2020. Let me see. But yeah, so like one thing is the Real Food Challenge, it was like 2020. It is 2021 now. And so now there's kind of this question of like what's next. Yeah, Hopkins signed the commitment for 35%. I think by the fall of 2019, which is the last time it was actually assessed, we got to 30.5%. Really wonderful. That's like 30% of the money that Hopkins spends on food for our dining halls actually going to locally sourced, sustainably grown food, like lots of small farms. So that's like definitely a success. But yeah, now we're kind of in this weird space of like, you know, what happens next? Are we gonna continue to try like, you know, diverting more and more of that budget towards food that meets these standards? But yeah, we have this question of like, what is real food going to mean at Hopkins going forward? So there's that whole part of it. And then this is also coinciding with this transition to self-operated dining. I'm going to kind of describe the history of like Hopkins dining contract, and I don't know if you may have heard, they announced that we're actually not going to renew that contract next year and we're going to transition to SelfOp. So yeah, I'm going to explain what all that means. Basically, I think since for the past decade, we've had a dining contract with Bon Appetit Management Company. Basically, how most universities, prisons, and hospitals all do their like dining services is they use a food service management company like that. And so the institution just signs one contract with the company, and that company is then responsible for procuring all of the food. So, you know, Bon Appetit was actually like buying from all the farmers and vendors. All the dining hall workers were Bon Appetit employees. So it's really just like, you know, super easy for an institution. You sign one contract and like here's an entire like dining program. So as you may expect, you know, this is a business. And so the food service management company like industry, it's this like, you know, very big and very problematic corporate controlled food system. There's 3 big companies. They're called the Big 3, Aramark, Sodexo, and Compass Group. Those 3 companies basically dominate the institutional food system. I think something like 70% of schools in the US have a dining contract with one of those 3 companies. And then what they do, they're out here to make a profit. And so, you know, it's not very profitable to buy from small local farmers. Instead, what they want to do is they want to buy from companies like Unilever or Nestle or Pepsi, you know, the companies that kind of like own the entire food system. Like, I don't know if you've seen those wheels that have just like all the different brands that Pepsi owns. But basically, once you get into like the world of big food corporations, there's like a couple companies that own most of the products that we buy. And so those companies, they can afford to pay the food service management companies what's called kickbacks. So basically how it works, you know, let's say Tyson Chicken, for example, they will pay a kickback, which is sort of like a bribe, to Bon Appetit in return for exclusive access to the university market. And so, small local farmers like can't afford to pay kickbacks like that. And so Bon Appetit and other management companies like that, they get to be this like convenient middleman where they're basically getting bribed by the big food companies, Tyson Chicken and Pepsi and other like just food that's like, mass produced in university dining halls. And of course, if you look at any big food corporation, there's like long histories of like worker rights issues, environmental exploitation. Pepsi, for example, is one of the top 3 plastic polluters in the entire world. Basically, our dining hall or our meal plan dollars are going into this giant system of just like terrible companies giving each other money. So that's kind of what's been going on. I'll mention that Bon Appetit is a subsidiary of Compass Group, so we are connected to the big 3. Bon Appetit, they're kind of like the sustainable arm. They have like a couple like local sourcing standards. Basically, we're still like Hopkins was still very much into that. Another thing I want to make sure to mention is, just because this is how all institutions work, the big 3 food service management companies, they have like a vested interest in mass incarceration. Like these are the companies like providing food to prisons and they're profiting off of that. So really it's just, the food system is ginormous and an institution like Hopkins is very much a part of that. And so by changing how our university food system works, we can actually do a lot of good in the world. Our contract with Bon Appetit actually expired in June of this year. And so leading up to that, Real Food knew it was expiring. And we kind of wanted to figure out, like, we basically wanted to cut that contract, but the important thing is that like our student group isn't really who matters most in our campus food system. Who matters most is the dining hall workers, making sure their rights are protected, they're being treated fairly. Like students, making sure that student food access issues and like, culturally sensitive food and all those things are being accounted for. And most importantly, like local vendors, like farms, BIPOC-owned businesses in Baltimore that have been like neglected, facing like years and years of disinvestment. Those are the actual stakeholders in our food system. And so last fall, we kind of reached out to a lot of those groups. We reached out to the workers union, lots of local farms and vendors, just kind of asking about their experience with Bon Appetit and making sure that self-operated dining is really, what would work best for everyone. And self-operated dining basically means not having a food service management company. That's all that means. It's like all of that, just like all of the functions of a food service management company, like buying the food, hiring the workers, would all be brought in-house. So after doing all that outreach, that's, what Real Food decided to advocate for. So we had like several meetings with the dining department. We sort of launched a campaign. COVID was happening, and so we were like running out of steam a little bit. But anyways, good news. Ronnie D again just coming at her with like the big decisions. He decided to we're not going to renew our contract with Bon Appetit. We're transitioning to self-operated dining, which is incredibly exciting. We're basically cutting ties with that whole giant institutional food system. It's like a huge win. We're over the moon about it. The contract with Bon Appetit got extended to July of next year just to allow time for that transition. But after that, we're not going to have a dining contract anymore. And so while that's a huge win, now we have this like, an almost bigger task ahead of us, figuring like what comes next. Hopkins is basically starting from scratch right now, building a dining program. And so we have a really cool opportunity to like say and advocate for exactly what we want. We can consider things like, obviously like where's our food sourced from, like sourcing from local farms and vendors, like minority-owned businesses, of course. But other things we can advocate for are like support for food insecure students, like a food pantry or like communal fridge program, culturally relevant food, like food that actually, makes everyone feel like home. We can have like demands about like zero waste, like not only in terms of food waste, but also like food packaging and single-use plastic. Like the dining program is so broad and like, as I mentioned before, they're like starting from scratch. And so we really have this cool opportunity to like do exactly what we want. And like the scale of the amount of good we can do here is like so large because like so many students eat at the dining hall every day. Hopkins has incredible purchasing power. And so it's just this, like really wonderful opportunity in this next year to actually like shape a dining program. That's probably gonna last for like the next decade or so. But now's like a very important time. And so in the spring, right after that was announced, Real Food just kind of did some like brainstorming and actually thought like, well, what do we want this to look like? You know, how are we going to make sure that we're continuing to work towards more locally sourced food? Like, how do we set up a dining program? And so we wrote up a proposal, which I like sent a bunch of links to Talia. I'm like not sure if you all have access to those things.
You can send them
But
out.
I can't.
Oh yeah, no worries.
You want to just send in the teams, Talia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put together a proposal. Also, how am I doing on time?
You have like 3 minutes.
Oh, okay,
I was
cool.
going to give you a team in the morning.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, in this proposal, we outlined some like potential pillars for the new dining. Really briefly, they're just like student-centered, Baltimore-based, supply chain responsibility, and zero waste. And there's descriptions of what all those mean. That's just kind of establishing those like 4 permanent goals for the new dining program. And then there's also in that proposal 2 priorities for the transition, because how this transition actually goes down is like incredibly important, just making sure that like all the people actually affected by our food system are at the table. And so the 2 demands we had there were just like, you know, real meaningful transparency, like open meetings, a clear timeline somewhere publicly available where like everyone is actually able to engage in that process. And we also wanted them to hire we called it a Baltimore food system specialist, like someone familiar with the Baltimore food system, from Baltimore, who can actually like advocate for Baltimore communities, so that this doesn't become another example of Hopkins, you know, just kind of like taking big institutional action that like negatively impacts Baltimore, because there's been enough of that. So yeah, that's the proposal we put together in the spring. Where things stand right now, we're still honestly trying to figure it out. We know that there was they just hired a new assistant vice provost for dining. He's basically going to be in charge of this whole transition. And so, yeah, we're assuming he's going to be pretty important to connect with. But yeah, right now we're not exactly sure like what comes next and how to get involved in this transition. But yeah, it's like a really important and exciting time. And so, yeah, we're just trying to, you know, get the word out as much as we can, make as many allies, because when things do start moving, like I think we'll really want like as many students and faculty and community members involved as possible. Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
I'm behind you, and I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
What would you like out of SGA, like action item wise?
Yeah, that's unfortunately I like don't have anything immediate right now, mostly because we don't like we're still trying to figure out like what our advocacy is going to look like this year. Yeah, I think like a main thing we want to do is just like make sure students are aware of this, but as of right now I don't have any like immediate asks.
Alright, cool. We're just like making connections. So we can either motion for a caucus, motion for Q&A, or just ask to move on to the next item of business, and we will thank you for your time. Can I get a motion?
Let's motion for a 3-minute Q&A with 1 minute speaking time.
Great. Can I get a second?
Second.
Alright,
Wait, point of information, are we live or like did we just stop recording?
no, we're live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Gavel time. I don't have the little spot yet, sorry. Nathan, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, so I actually have 2. First off, do you think it would be beneficial for SGA to sign some sort of letter that would basically say that we support whatever the proposal is if we do in fact support it?
Yeah, that would be
Awesome.
incredible.
And then the other thing I was going to ask, I was interested when you talked about the transition process. I was expecting there to be something in there about like worker job security. Is that like not a huge concern
Oh my gosh,
through
no.
the transition, or is that also something that like is going to need to be really pushed for? Because I don't know how things change when they go from Bon Appetit to them being employed.
Yeah, fantastic question. Thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot to mention. Yeah, that's another reason self-operated dining is great, because before all the dining hall workers were Bon Appetit employees, and now not only are they all going to stay, but they're all going to become university employees, gaining all the protections of university workers. So yeah, honestly, like that part of it is like basically set, which is a huge win. Because yeah, I don't know if you all remember, like right as COVID hit, just like the Baltimore Sun article and all those photos of all the dining hall workers protesting, and yeah, Hopkins was really able to just be like, those are not our employees. Like we don't have jurisdiction over that. But no, now like all the dining hall workers are going to stay on. They're still going to be unionized with their current union. And yeah, they're just going to get all the protections of university benefits. Yes.
Alright, does anyone want to be added to the speakers list, or can I get a motion to close? Go ahead.
Do you know Harry Huntley?
Who?
Harry Huntley?
I don't think so.
He's the master of market for the Waverly Farmers Market. I think he'd be really interested to put you in touch.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
There is something about that's coming up later.
What?
Right?
Oh, other Waverly things, but I think
Yes.
he'd be super interested in this.
Yeah.
We can share that contact with you after, or we can just have Talia send it to you if you'd like, because I
Okay,
know
that
you're
sounds
MRP. One more speaker, we have like 30 seconds left. Can I get a motion to close?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Alright, all in favor? All opposed? Alright, it's closed, thank you very much for your time.
Amazing. Yeah, thank
Feel
you
free to
all
reach out to
so
Talia
much.
Talia, and she can bring it. She can also co-write legislation for your organization, we can sponsor events for you, co-sponsor events, and give you money, that's the thing we do, so.
Cool.
Just
That's
kinda
really good
float
to
that
know.
out there.
Amazing. Okay,
great.
thank you all so much.
Thank you for coming to our meeting.
Yeah, we love having visitors. Cute, wonderful, great. Next thing we have is the retreat debrief, which will be in my email. So, as everyone here knows, we had a retreat through the lead office with fraternity and leaders. So we had 11 members of the Senate go, 10 members of the Senate not go, and then the entirety of the executive board, because we're amazing, showed up as well. So most of fraternity and sorority life were there. I believe our total was like upwards of 40 people, not including graduate staff interns, Carolyn, Calvin, any of the other speakers. Yeah, we have a wonderful video. It takes up a large portion of my Google Drive. Okay. I will take this. So we actually had someone whose name is Chinese, and make a video of our time there. So we're gonna watch the video, and I'm gonna talk about some of the things that we achieved, et cetera, et cetera. I don't